And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. Today, joined by Josh and Erica. We have a great show lined up for you today. We got competition in the podcasting space, I think, up top. We need to address that right away. But before we get to that, how you guys feeling?
First Friday of Lent. Here we are.
Josh, you hit McDonald's yet?
Why would I go to McDonald's on a Friday?
Fish fillet.
Fish fillet, man.
Fish fillet.
Greatest fish
It's 11
sandwich in
a.m.
America.
They don't have.
Maybe you did an early lunch.
No, they don't start. Well, 10:30. I don't have time for that.
Wait, so
maybe I do
is
love
this
the fish
podcast?
fillet.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Right.
I'm going to call him an Uber Eats right now.
You know, like James.
Fish sandwich for this. I'm calling.
I have to give credit to Jim Gaffigan on this. Everyone likes to talk down on McDonald's, but like they've served like 99 billion people. I mean, so someone's lying out there, and I'm not lying. I like McDonald's. I know it's crappy for me. I know it gets me in trouble with Bobby Kennedy, but the president's with me on this one. I like it. It tastes good.
You have like a little RFK Jr. on your shoulder telling you, no, don't get the fish fillet.
Oh, do I? Shut up. Yeah. Although I found out they don't always advertise it, but you can always order a second fillet. So just double it up.
You're doing double stack fillets?
Yeah, bro.
Oh, man.
That's a lot of fish.
This is a fillet podcast. Okay, but before we get into that, and this may be very appropriate, thank you to today's sponsor, Hypurofit. Okay, let's move it right there. Now, I was on the coaching profiles. I was checking it out. I was out for the first ad, and I feel like this is right up my alley as a fellow exercise enjoyer. But I don't even know, where did we go? All right, I Hypurofit on the screen here.
It's
but guess what?
Today.
I went to the coaching profile for Chase, and I was laughing because, of course, he's super qualified. Seems like a great guy, but I could hear a kid crying in the background during the video, and I was like, man, these are our people right here. So guess what? Are you tired of the secular approach to fitness and nutrition? Discover Hypurofit.org, the world's first Catholic personal training and nutrition coaching company. It's inspired by the teachings of St. Pope John Paul II. Hypurofit teaches that exercise and nutrition can be tools to help you strive for self-mastery and self-gift. Completely agree with this. Maybe there's a couple Lenten commitments out there to get a little bit more in shape this season, and I'm all for it.
Maybe I shouldn't do that double fillet today.
This ad was strategically placed.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, their certified trainers and nutrition experts provide personalized plans that honor one's faith, helping individuals grow stronger in body, mind, and spirit. Technically excellent and authentically Catholic, Hypurofit ensures the highest quality guidance while staying true to Catholic values. So go ahead and visit Hypurofit today. Start a journey of wellness through the lens of faith. Hypurofit, discover the Catholic approach to fitness. Thank you very much for sponsoring today's episode. Shout out to the Hypurofit crew.
Thanks, guys.
So I'm going to start by setting this up. And I'll admit, on this podcast, we need to do a better job of laying down 411 before getting into objections. So I'm going to start here. California Governor Gavin Newsom. You all know and love him. You might remember him from the French Laundry incident, his stint as mayor of San Francisco, his stint as governor of California currently, a lot of hair gel. He announced he was doing a podcast like every other.
He's like what you would look like if you were evil.
and I used a little bit more hair gel. But Gavin Newsom announced he was starting a podcast about a month ago. And I honestly saw this and I didn't take it super seriously. I mean, what white dude in his 30s doesn't announce at one point he's starting a podcast? I'm among the crew. Not in my 30s yet, but he's in his 50s? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Easy,
okay.
dude. Easy.
So that being said, I didn't really think much of it. I think personally, because when I've seen the Democrat approach to media, it's been very old school in terms of going on friendly networks, quick news hits, not super fond of the unscripted, at least from elected officials. I haven't seen a lot of unscripted podcast, shows with them on them.
Well, you're talking about the Democrats.
Yeah. And Republicans clearly
the Harris campaign, right.
Right. And Republicans clearly weaponized this, or you can say utilized it to great success over the past cycle. And so he said, I'm going to be doing, unscripted, hard hitting. I'm going to talk to the other side. And I was like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Mm-hmm. Then he has Charlie Kirk on the show. And look, Charlie Kirk, I would not consider friendly media to Gavin Newsom. And he wasn't. The clips that they rolled out, they were contentious. They were different, but there was really some interesting things that Gavin Newsom showed from this. And I think things that, could be the future for Democrats, I'd be a little bit concerned about encouraging if I was a Republican. So I'm going to start with the one that really made the rounds. It was him breaking with the traditional Democrat brass, specifically on trans and sports. So I'm going to share that and we get into it after.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? the young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
So like, you right now should come out.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So he agrees with Charlie. Is he going to change the policy on this? I guess I'd like to know. He's the governor of California.
I wish we had the next 5 seconds of that clip, because he comes out. This is the clip that everyone put out there, and it's like, oh my gosh, he totally like swings right on this. But if you listen to the rest of that conversation, that part of the pod, Gavin Newsom, he doesn't actually say, okay, I'm going to come out and say that this boy who's going to win the long jump in California shouldn't be given this. And he just
says it's unfair, but he allows it anyway.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's the actual thing. So again, like he's saying all these things. He's saying, oh yeah, to Charlie Kirk, and he's like, Charlie, tell me what I should do. Like, should we market this differently? Should we do it? And Charlie's like, well, here's what you should say. But it's not just what you should say. And you shouldn't just say, oh yeah, it's unfair that like this 7-foot tall boy is going to beat all these 5-foot tall girls in the long jump. Hello. That's obvious, but you should actually do something about it. So like, let's wait 6 months and see if he actually says anything about that. What concerned me more with this, and it wasn't so much like, oh my gosh, he's breaking with Dems on trans. The thing about this interview that actually creeped me out and got me scared was I realized that, and I've known this, that Gavin Newsom is a whore for power. He is willing to sit there and take all of this from Charlie Kirk for 90 minutes or whatever it was. We haven't even seen the whole thing yet. These are just clips that they released.
It comes out today, yeah.
Yeah, later today. He's willing to just sit there, and Charlie Kirk like ragging on him, telling him how his son's going to be a MAGA guy, and like, you guys really screwed up. And he's like, yeah, we were. He's doing this so that he can swing moderate and be like, look, I'm such a moderate. And because he knows this is going to get him in front of Charlie Kirk's crowd in a way that he would never be in front of Charlie Kirk's crowd. So it's smart, and it shows he is absolutely willing to do or say anything and alienate the far left of his party just to get in power. And I do not want that to happen.
We'll see if it works. But yeah, that's the whole point, to try to pull a Bill Clinton triangulation. That's what he did when he ran for president in 1992. He isolated some of the more far radical, like people on the left, and Sister Soldier, and said, she's gone too far. This is unacceptable. And you attack the far left to show I'm moderate. But
explain that for a second. You said Sister Soldier.
Sister Soldier was this. It's actually referred to in politics as a Sister Soldier moment. So this author wrote this book, and she was a rapper, a film producer. Clinton criticized her remarks about race in the United States. And basically it's now known as, it's like, it was a meme before they had the use of the word memes. So when a politician does a Sister Soldier moment, that means they intentionally call someone out on quote their side, mm-hmm. as a way of kind of like putting that distance between someone. So that's exactly what Gavin's intending to do on the trans stuff. It's smart as a strategy. The question is it going to work? And will he, he's going to have to try it out. So mm-hmm. We'll see.
So I'm going to add that to my vocabulary repertoire. Thank you, Josh. But I will say, we haven't even gotten to the other clips yet, but this is the one that got picked up by places like Politico. And of course, they went to all the major players in the Democratic Party right now, and they asked them what they thought of it. And I saw in the Politico article I'm talking about, you got comment from Lori Lightfoot, quote, "It's disgusting. There are kids waking up today in California with the news thinking that their governor hates them, and rightfully so." Pramila Jayapal urged Democrats not to, quote, "take the bait and give in to the anti-trans people rhetoric," though she hasn't even seen Newsom's comments. She just heard about them. But you do get this other side of Democrats here, a unnamed strategist in a swing state saying, we just stepped too far out of bounds and let the far left drive the narrative. He was granted anonymity to speak freely. Our voters don't agree with trans athletes in youth or college sports. We've talked about that almost ad nauseum on the show, of Trump picking this kind of 80-20 issue. The latest poll, January 2025, found that 67% of Democrats oppose transgender female athletes, defined as those assigned male at birth but identifying as female, competing in women's sports. Overall, 79% of total respondents shared this view. So look, say what you want about, Gavin being a snake or moving around and shapeshifting. I think that nothing Democrats or Democrat leadership are currently doing right now is working. And I almost am a little concerned to see someone let loose like this on the podcast circuit in long form, because I will see in some of these other clips, I think he kind of comes across as like,
he has no other strategy, Tom.
That's what I'm saying, but
he has to do this Sister Souljah kind of moment. Okay. So by the way, I found the exact quote that Sister Souljah did back in the 92 LA riots. She told the Washington Post, if black people kill black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people? So Bill Clinton attacked her and then attacked Jesse Jackson for having her a part of the Rainbow Coalition. And he basically, Clinton's move ostracized her, marginalized her, isolated her, and the Democratic Party moved on. But it became this point where it's like, okay, you're able to convince the median American voter, I'm not like these crazy psychos who refuse to do this. So we'll see. But see, if you're Gavin Newsom, right? If Joe Biden had done the sensible thing at the beginning of January 2024 and simply said, you know what, I don't get the steam. I can't do it. I'm not running for president. It's anyone's game, and allowed the primaries to be wide open, then what would have happened? J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, who's got more money than God, and Gavin Newsom, who's got a large network, and he also can raise money like a vacuum. Those two guys would have run for president, and you would have had a chance as a white guy to run because there would have been a tight calendar, and he could have done it. Well, now you're looking ahead to 4 years from now, right? 2028, 3 years. And if you're Gavin Newsom, you're a white dude. How do you win in this party? You've got to have something new. You got to have some new strategy. So for him, it's going to be, I got to be different. I'm going to push back at these trans radicals who want to have big dudes in sports. But again, will he follow through?
Can I push back on that though? Like him not being able to win as a white guy, I think is probably the wrong. I would disagree with that. If he does Sister Souljah, the crazy people in the party, the same people that would be uncomfortable voting for a white guy here, which they voted for Joe Biden, that was no problem. If he does that successfully and he brings over some of the, say, suburban moms that maybe, again, are a little bit scared of Trump being chaotic, making big changes. They just want the status quo. They just want to live their suburban lifestyle. Bring some of those over. If he starts leaning into the pro-populism, labor, like there's a path here to me for him to actually work for him.
I think, okay, so here's the problem, is that if you look at the way, so suburban moms, that might be one place where he is not going to mitigate how he governs, though. And with the suburban mom vote, the reason why they swung towards Trump is because in the concrete policies that they're protesting, things like there's porn in their schools. And I see you have the book ban clip here. I think this is one clip that really shows Gavin Newsom is not going to back down on how he governs. He might start mitigating how he talks about being, I'm not so radical. His policies are still radical. And you look in suburban moms, what they care about is how their kids actually are being treated in the schools and how they are actually being treated as
I want a slight pushback on that. I mean, you're obviously a suburban mom, so it's kind of rare for me to go against it. But like, if you look at the precise issues that these suburban moms kind of move back towards the Republican camp, the boys and girls sports was one. I don't know, maybe a little bit on the books and schools, but that would have been, I think what that did was made conservative moms more active, right? I don't know if it necessarily changed a bunch of moms, because aren't a bunch of moms in Hamden perfectly fine by saying how pro
porn they are,
pro LGBT they are, and this is part of what that means. But the difference is having like 6'2" dudes play volleyball. That's where they're like, I don't feel good about that. So that's the issue where the suburban moms, I think, flip the most. That and crime and immigration. Those were the three. And so, it's smart for Gavin to push back at that and say, yeah, it doesn't seem fair. That's going to resonate with those moms more than, let's say, the book.
It's going to resonate with them if he actually acts on it. He's the governor of the largest state in the United States. And so if there are no actual changes, let
me push back at you. Politics, if he just conveys that it's unfair, that might be enough to win over enough voters to back into his camp, that he just feels it's unfair. But will he have to actually change policy? Maybe not. Who knows?
Right. Let's get into the book banning clip before we go any further.
This is good.
How about the book ban stuff? On a serious note, 4,240 books or titles, libraries and schools were banned in 2023. Is that not as a conservative?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
there.
So that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
No.
Bill O'Reilly's
that
book
was the
banned.
Moms for Liberty contention. Time out.
Yeah.
I agree on Bill O'Reilly. The Moms for Liberty movement that you made a big thing of was just no porn to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
We agree. So those books should be banned.
Well, okay.
So what we should do right now is every California school that has porn in their library should be kicked out.
Does that include the
book
Bible?
Ban. Well,
oh my
I wouldn't
gosh.
say the Song of Solomon is porn.
No, but I mean, some have made that point. Is that a fair point, or is it offensive?
I don't think that's fair
and as
at
a man
all.
of faith, and I deeply admire that about you.
Thank you.
Sincerely.
Yes, but no, I mean, again, the Song of Solomon is rather risque.
No, it's
but what we're talking about
but
in these books is not just the words; it's also the images. And again, your audience can look at the images themselves.
Okay.
It's highly graphic, but again,
it seems a banning binge. I mean, at next level, sort of cancel culture.
But why do you think moms are doing that? Do you think it's because they want to have mind control, or do you think that they have come across incident of highly provocative material?
I love moms, but this moms, I mean, we don't have to get into Moms for Liberty. It seems
you brought up the book bans, though. I mean,
deeply organized for a larger agenda, but that's my humble opinion.
No, but let me just kind of complete the point. Is that it's easy to just call it kind of a book ban, but when you actually have to read some of these books, it will take your breath away of some of this stuff, right? You're like, okay, we're teaching a 10-year-old how to put a condom on.
I know. I just have a problem with, who the hell is going to decide that? Government? I mean, Ron DeSantis is going to decide what I can read or say in the boardroom, in the classroom?
This is the exercise of politics, though. Yeah. The exercise of politics is the highest form of community because it blends morality and sociability. So what we do is we have discussion and elections, and we have boards and commissions, right? And we as a people say, okay, no porn for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's politics, right?
Yeah, that's politics.
Seems pretty simple. Who's going to decide? Someone has to decide what books to put on the shelves. And so whoever makes that decision, we say, hey, bro, maybe not porn books, maybe not the anarchist cookbook, maybe not Mein Kampf. How's a book ban? So idiotic. I mean, it's like a freshman in college who thinks they're smarter than everyone in the whole room. Really, bro? Take a beat.
You think this way because but clearly this was a potent issue, weaponized against Governor DeSantis in Florida. It was brought up everywhere. I hear and I see moms on Facebook talk about this thing.
It was a potent issue because all the Democrats thought, wow, we got them again. They're trying to get rid of books like Catcher in the Rye. Really? No. We don't want the book Genderqueer with cartoon images of sodomy. That's what we don't want in the books, accessible in the children's library. So you're not winning on this one. They thought they had this winning issue. Now, I will admit, we overturned Dobbs, and that became a potent issue for the Democrats because they're like, don't you love abortion? Let's vote for abortion. This total extreme case. And it hurt us at the ballot box. And so some Republicans are grumping about it because they're like, oh, I don't really ever care about this issue. And it hurt us. Yeah, you know what? Shut up. So what if we lost a little bit? We've been fighting for this for 50 years. But the issue of this whole, quote, book ban stuff, all it did is convince, again, there's so many people that they love to talk about the book bans. I see it on NPR stuff and ACLU and you guys feel so proud. Anyone can go on to Amazon and buy just about every damn book in the world. There's no book ban. We're just saying for a 10-year-old in the little local library, not have cartoon porn. This is not hard. And so, no, I don't think Democrats' attack on this proved to be successful for anyone, but they felt so good about themselves. I talked before about Selma envy, how all these Democrats wish that they could march in civil rights. This other one, they think, I get to show how I'm such a great defender of the First Amendment that I'm going to make sure we get porno books, in libraries for school children. And yet you want to have the federal government silence conservatives on Twitter and Facebook because, you believe in the First Amendment.
Right.
Point made. What I was hoping to leave this section with, I think Gavin Newsom, just humble opinion, too much baggage, right? We look at how he's governing. We look at what's going on right now in his own state. My concern is that this medium and format, new Democrat strategy, I think he mentioned in another clip about the James Carville thing, just lay down and shut up, basically. Like, don't go on podcasts, don't do anything, don't lose the lead, quote unquote, that we have. And it clearly blew up and failed. And even just seeing Democrat leadership right now, they're doing what? Choose your fighter TikToks, like with leadership. They're sending out the same message. What's going right now is not working. So,
okay,
what do you see emerging from this, Josh?
No. Is this Gavin thing even working? Like, because Charlie's pressing him on this. He's like, this graphic stuff.
Josh, to you, no, but
the objective viewer here who's watching it, because it's not like Gavin says, yeah, you got a point. Maybe cartoon porn is too far. Yeah, you got a point there. He basically, every time he concedes something that Charlie says, look at how he concedes. It's like this, half speak, hardly mentioning anything, kind of like backing into it. It's not
intentional, right? It's intentional because he doesn't have to be tied to it.
It's not. In other words, he's not doing what Bill Clinton did. Bill Clinton laid down a marker in 1992 and said, this rhetoric is wrong. We as Democrats cannot go for this. This is not okay. And Gavin Newsom's like,
yes, I can see your point.
He's not triangling effectively.
Agree, but I'm saying the first Democrat that does lay down the marker like that has a humongous opportunity ahead of them because they get to break and be the radical new person of the party.
But I think
he's
Josh
getting the closest
beat him, right? But like Josh Shapiro's beat him to that, right? I mean, even some of his
he's got a lot of baggage too, though.
He has a ton of. I don't think he's the rising star or anything. I mean, but he's beat Gavin Newsom to that, and I don't think Gavin could overtake him in that kind of like. Let me switch it up.
You know what?
What? I
think this is mainly a failed strategy for the Democrats in 2024. Because not that it's not the right thing to do for a general election, it probably is, but it's not going to get them nominated as the standard bearer for their party, because the vast majority of voters in the Democratic primaries are not going to say, what's the lesson for the last few election cycles? Like, Donald Trump won like on a fluke against Hillary, and then he lost to Biden, and then he won against Kamala, but he was able to make it, exploit the whole immigration thing. You need to are Democratic voters convinced that they need to make a systemic change to their policies and the way they do things? No, most voters in the Democratic Party do not actually believe that. And especially those who come out and vote. So if someone running for president as a Democrat in 2028, like a Newsom or a Josh Shapiro, and they say, we need to make some big changes because we should have won that last election and we got clobbered. We need to move and be more sensible towards the middle on trans, on immigration, on crime. We got to do it. And I think most of the voters were like, I know that people say that we should, but I don't want to. And you have to remember that Bill Clinton made these changes in 1992 after Democrats got walloped in 1980, 1984, and 1988. They lost 3 times in a row. And after that, Bill Clinton's like, we got to try something different here. We got to do,
that was good.
We got to do value chips.
James Carville, it's the economy stupid.
The economy stupid.
So you think it's going to take a 2028 beating to really get this out of the party?
No, I think the 2028 beating and then maybe in 32. But if they
I'm here for it.
There's a chance that they could win in 28 by being just as radical as they were this year. That's the problem. Okay. So that's their incentive not to change, because what happens if, Trump's doing a lot of things? What happens if we get a recession,
or another COVID
recession? Okay.
Right.
Then voters might say, well, that didn't work out. And so the Democrats could be just as radical in 28 and they could actually win. So I don't think they're going to change. That's why Gavin Newsom doesn't have the heart for it, because he's like, I got to do some window dressing to show I'm not as crazy as those. I might have done things a little bit differently, but by and large, the Democratic Party is not going to de-radicalize in the 28 elections.
Give me a prediction. Who do you think emerges?
It could be Gavin. He's very slick. He's going to make that window dressing stuff, but not make any systemic changes. J.B. Pritzker has got gazillions of dollars, so maybe he's not the guy, but he's just going to be a leader just because he's going to spend.
He's a kingmaker.
He's going to spend so much money. So those two are both.
Yeah, I was digging into numbers on just like how important and relatively large money plays a role as opposed to, say, European elections. I think for the most recent European elections, it was like a couple $1 million. Elon Musk spent, I think, $250 million in the last 2 months, 3 months of the election. It's crazy how much money are involved in these elections.
I think to make a good comparison, you should tally up how much money is spent on the presidential elections in each of the countries in Europe and total them together and see if that compares, because the United States is a continent practically. I mean, that's how large the United States and the size of Europe is actually pretty close together. I don't know about population size, but I mean, you're running for president amongst these United States. You're running, 3,000 miles from coast to coast. I mean, there's so many major media markets, and actually give credit to Donald Trump. He's a billionaire. But he ran in 2016, and won with hardly any money at all. And Hillary Clinton had tons of money. So money doesn't buy elections, but it'll help when it comes to the primary. And again, if you have a very strong and very compelling message and you're able to change people's minds and hearts, Trump did that in 2016 like no one else.
No question. To full circle, he had major breaks with the previous party on many things. The biggest to me is the break on Afghanistan and the neocon stuff. There's people ready just to be done with controlling the world as global police.
And to my point about Clinton in 92, what had happened? Republicans lost in 2008. They lost in 2012. They lost twice in a row, and they wanted something different. So Democrats have only lost once. So I don't know if they're going to change.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll have to see. But speaking on money, I had a few. Erica, did you have one more thing you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So speaking on money, and Erica and I were going over this morning. So there's all this tariff talk, right? We got a jobs report. We got tariff updates. This might not be super sexy, might be a little bit more vegetables, but there was 25% tariffs promised by President Trump on both Mexico and Canada. He wasn't shy about it. It was all over social media. He's waving around as a big stick, presumably to control substances coming across the border, handle the cartels, and rein in illegal immigration. So those two, the 25% tariffs, at least on Mexico so far, have been kind of pushed off now till April 2nd. And I have the exact tweet from Trump because I don't want to mince his words here. And Sheinbaum, president of Mexico, shared it. So after speaking with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, I have agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. This agreement is until April 2nd. I did this as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you to President Sheinbaum for your hard work and cooperation. Now, you see the U.S.
April 2nd?
Because they have to renegotiate USMCA, right?
He didn't want it April 1st.
He didn't want April.
Because April Fool's Day, yeah.
I love that clip.
Man.
Which is why we scheduled the induction for my son John on April 2nd, not April 1st. I'm like, come on. But then we realized, wait, April 2nd is the anniversary of the death of Pope John Paul II. So that's why we named him John.
My parents' wedding anniversary is April 1st. So their entire married life, which is long and wonderful. We've always had the joke of like, did you really get married? Anyway, back to Trump and the tariffs. Fun fact.
But was Trump joking about the tariffs? Now, you saw USMCA in there. I did a little bit more research. The United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, it replaced NAFTA in 2020. 90% plus of these trade benefits between the US, Mexico, and Canada are covered under this. So essentially, this is basically, for those saying, oh, the tariffs are still on, no, it's actually paused basically until April 2nd. Basically, everything that would have been touching the tariffs has been paused till April 2nd. Some are saying that this is kind of a backing off from Trump. Maybe this is all part of the grander negotiation scan. I'm not sure. Josh, you have any thoughts? Erica, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I wouldn't. The simplistic reading of it is, oh my gosh, Trump chickened out. That's always proven to be false. And I do think when we first had the Trump tariff talks, like about 3 weeks ago now, it turned out that the threatening of the tariffs actually brought about some real policy changes that highly benefited the United States, all of which being shutting down the border, the Mexico sending troops to the border, putting more law enforcement on the cartels. So again, I do think that Trump wants to implement this reciprocal tariff idea just out of fairness, right? Because this is a new era, golden age of America. We're going to go back to, benefiting the United States. But there's other negotiations going on here besides just, he chickened out at the last minute because he was so worried about economic blowback. I just think that's an overly simplistic reading that doesn't follow the historical evidence.
So is basically Trump's plan here just to do reciprocal stuff on the carve-outs? Because like that's what 90% of the stuff there's a pretty good agreement with. But like, for example, people in the chat were telling me that Canada imposes a tariff on dairy like 275% or something large.
Yeah.
So is that where he's just going to go reciprocal and the other 90% remain like, untouched? I don't know. It'll be interesting. That might be one play,
Yeah.
And that way it could be like, okay, can we renegotiate that? I mean, I know you have a little carve up for your farmers, but like maybe 25%, like really get down to 275. Like that's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there was concern. This does kind of tie in with the jobs report. It just dropped this morning. So the full digging in has not happened. It's complex. And then also, if you remember the Biden administration, they'd basically be like, we added 2 million jobs. And then they'd revise it a week later quietly to be like, we actually added like 150,000.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's different. Right.
So, but Erica, I had you dig into this. Is there any major findings from this job report for us to look at?
So as of right now, this jobs report is obviously from February. So it's always a look back. It's too early to indicate any like successes or failures of the Trump administration. So if you see headlines that are like jobs report, Trump's terrible, the economy's not coming back as fast as he said it was, that's all ridiculous. These things take so much time. We probably won't actually start to see the implementation affect the jobs report until 3 or 4 months from now even. And even then it just takes time. There's no major alarm bells here. Overall numbers, initial reporting, employers added 151,000 jobs in February, which was up a little bit from the 143 in January. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.1%, but that's just from like 3.8. So again, it's like this, no alarm bells, nothing to freak out about. In general, the Fed has some flexibility to maybe interest rate cuts could be coming, but it's just mostly everything's going to be status quo until we start to see changes.
I just don't see people like, Democrats told us for the last 3 years, this is the best. Why isn't Biden and Harris getting credit for this wonderful recovery? And then as soon as, Trump's sworn into office, the egg prices are horrible.
Yeah, eggs are so expensive.
What?
It's been 6 weeks, guys. It's been.
You haven't fixed inflation in 6 weeks. What's going on? You're terrible. It's like you guys are so full of crap. I mean, like, give me a break. And so the average American voter out there is not going to be convinced by these arguments. Like, yeah, Trump's in there, and let's see how he does. Like, if he doesn't change, part of the problem is that, in a slight sense, it's like he's only been president for 6 weeks. It feels like longer because the guy's been doing some more stuff.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I've noticed the price at the pump going down. I mean, energy costs are going down. So things are looking better. We'll see.
Did you see that Doug Burgum? I think he was announcing Burgum. He did a new partnership or something. And he's like, yeah, all right. And then he left the stage. They started blasting Creed.
Yeah. It was
awesome. I can't even show it because we'd get copyrighted, but I'm thinking we're back. We got secretaries blasting Creed at the end of announcements. Awesome. Okay, so I got some Doge talk. Basically, to summarize, because we don't have time today, they're kind of reining him in a little bit. Politico reported that they had a closed door meeting, basically saying, "Hey, Elon," Elon and everyone else is like, "You
slow your roll a little bit."
Each cabinet is in charge of their own cuts. Elon is not making cuts himself. It's important that we own the issue. It has been a little bit chaotic, and people are pointing out that this might look bad to the public and obviously has real world impact. So be a little bit more careful. I know that we need to slash a lot. I think a lot of people are on board with slashing a lot, but it needs to come from, the people I put in these places with the secretary. Other than that, I did promise
for that real quick. Obviously, you don't want Elon Musk to be a total lightning rod, so he becomes politically toxic. So Trump is actually saving him from the ledge. But it's also, Trump makes the point, like the executive has the authority through through himself, but also through the people he points to these cabinets to fire people. And so he needs to be able to say, I'm not bringing some like consultant guy in to fire everybody. So it's actually constitutional reason too. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Agreed.
I think too, like the reality is that it's been 6 weeks and DOGE has been moving at lightning speed, warp speed. And as they uncover all these like legitimate scams going on in the government, the reality is they break a lot of things as they go. And Elon Musk has said this. He said this at the cabinet meeting that like, look, we're going to make mistakes. We're probably going to fire the wrong people. We'll just need to rehire them later, or we're going to cut a program that was actually doing something good. This was funny though, because I was kind of going through the analysis. So they're using AI and these modeling, these like really intricate modelings to comb through all these reams of federal documents to uncover this. And so they're using a lot of like advanced linguistics and word association to get this done, because there's so much. So if you're going to do anything, you have to have kind of a broader tool. There was a really funny example this week. So you have like these words, right, that are flagged, and they include things like diversity, equity, inclusion. Gay is one of them. So this is a funny example. In some cases, photos seem to be flagged for removal simply because their file includes the word gay, including service members with that last name, and an image of the B-29 aircraft, the Enola Gay, which dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. So the photo of the Enola Gay was like taken down off of the National Air and Space Museum website by mistake. It's been reinstated, guys. It's back up there. Yeah. But these kinds of things are happening. That's a frivolous example, but I had to share it.
And I got an email actually to the inbox of giving me good perspective on a lot of this. It was someone who actually works, I think, within the government or in a contract or something like that. And it was about the email. Like you just need to email back telling me what you do. Give me 3 bullet points, what you do or whatever. And
I got a lot of emails about that.
We've got a lot of emails about that. And that there's like human problems with that, right? Like what if you're on maternity leave? What if you're on vacation? Whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously want to handle that right. Because even she herself is like, I have nothing but support for DOGE and cutting the government. It needs to be done. I'm actually in favor of it, along with many of my colleagues are in favor with it. So I think it is smart to have this kind of reining in moment to make sure that you're publicly accountable to the people, because I think there actually are a lot of feds that want to see the right changes be made for them to be kind of unshackled to do a better job. I think at the end of the day, it's what we all want. I even saw the Democrat response to the State of the Union sounded like Ronald Reagan. Like she was saying, we want the same thing. We want this. It was almost like they're kind of agreeing. I think it was Slotkin did it. And so, yeah, winning issue, if you do it right, I think the worst thing you can do is go overboard. Scandal blows up and then, you know, people are going to be in shock. Mm-hmm. So one thing I wanted to talk about was MAHA. We haven't talked to MAHA in a bit here. So specifically in regard to, I guess there was a measles outbreak in Texas.
There is.
We have 159 confirmed cases. And this actually mostly impacted Mennonites who I'm not positive, I assume are similar to Amish in the fact that they don't get vaccines.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, right. It's not quite as strict as the Amish, but there is like a religious objection.
Yeah. And so RFK Jr. actually wrote an op-ed on this, and I actually thought that was kind of indicative of the MAHA movement, what he brings to the table and what's just going to break with what's going on in the status quo. Not only is he sending vaccines to this area of Texas to be available, but he's also offering nutrition education and how to treat this right after it happens. It's honestly what he promised to do here, offer people options, educate them on the effects, and then offer those options to the public instead of this kind of playing into a perverse incentive structure of vaccine at all costs. You only can do this. We're going to force you to do this. And then the people who make the vaccine are going to make a lot of money. This also is kind of in line with, he stopped this campaign with the CDC called Wild to Mild for the flu vaccine. And of course, you know, people are getting super greased on this, tons of money flying around. All the CDC studies were saying, oh yeah, this actually helped. It paid for itself. And he's like, okay, we're not going to basically say this is the only solution to this and you're going to take it. And if you don't take it, we're going to shame you.
Right.
His whole point is we want to offer informed consent. And of course, there's critics on the MAHA side who are saying, oh my gosh, can't believe you would be putting forth vaccines to begin with.
The MMR.
Exactly. You're in bed now. Right. And then there's the other side. They're saying RFK Jr. is the most dangerous person possible to society. I can't believe you would not have people taking these vaccines. And then, of course, to me, I'm like, this kind of seems like what he is advertised. I don't know anyone that's really surprised on either side. He's not anti-vaccine. You know, he just wants informed consent, be transparent as possible, and hopefully help a lot of these health outbreaks. So that's what's going on right now in Texas.
Yeah, and to me, the overreaction, of course, from both sides, it's like if you actually read the op-ed, he hasn't. I mean, obviously, he's had rhetoric in the past where he was like, "No vaccines, it causes all," all of that. But when he was appointed to be HHS secretary, when he was nominated, he said, like, my goal is to restore trust in government and to restore trust in our public health officials because it's damaging to everyone when no one trusts. And so he wants to publish the findings. Like you said, informed consent on what to do post-infection and to give parents options instead of like, this is my way or the highway kind of thing that has really it's increased vaccine hesitancy massively around the country, the way that we've treated people who have legitimate questions. He's just saying we're going to allow people to ask these questions again, which to me, in a democratic society based on civic discourse, is just the common sense, sane way to go about communicating public health research and truths and policy. Anyway.
Josh? No, I completely agree. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I wish our health experts hadn't squandered their their legitimate like moral authority that they had. So
it's a good way of putting it. Squandered.
I can make the argument that it's been kind of broken for a long time. Actually, I think there's been a lot of inbreeding at our federal agencies and big pharma. It's like basically like a shell corporation in some ways. They hop on each other's boards. It's very similar to me to the military-industrial complex. And I don't think that this is just a general statement on what excites me about MAHA is there's this kind of a religious treatment of vaccines that I don't think are productive to the conversation about whether or not they work. I think people don't trust the studies on these things. I mean, one thing I always go back to is I think it was Coca-Cola funded a study on whether or not Coca-Cola had adverse health effects for you. And shocker, the study came back.
Follow the money.
No, actually they don't. So yeah, he's got a really hard job here, I think. I don't think anyone would say differently to restore trust in public institutions, especially after 2020. I just think was the biggest own goal to anyone that actually cares about health and safety in the country by the coercion. Everyone I talk to is people that are pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. Everyone I've talked to agreed there should not have been coercion. Coercion was the worst possible ingredient to add to this because there's people on both sides of the fence and there needs to be a robust public debate about it. One thing that excites me is I think, is it Jay Bhattacharya is how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He's been put up for NIH to be the director of NIH. And he actually said that they're going to prohibit the use of aborted fetal tissue when it comes to vaccines. So I think is a huge step forward. That's like one of the biggest Catholic objections that I see. And I think reasonably so. So yeah, Trump nominee pledges to prohibit use of aborted fetal tissue, National Institutes of Health funded research. Shout out Jay. I think he's been great throughout COVID as well. So I'm happy to see a lot of these kind of change makers come to the table and hopefully restore some of that trust that's been lost.
Yeah, and here's someone who like really suffered. He protested against the lockdowns. He warned against closing down the schools. He was saying like this is the lockdown, the absolutism when it comes to lockdowns around COVID is going to cause more long-term health detrimental effects than COVID will. And boy, was he right. But he was ostracized from the medical and scientific community for those comments, the Great Barrington Declaration, you might remember. So I love the sweet justice that he will now be the head of the NIH. Bring it on.
There's been a bunch of these guys. I mean, Trump being the figurehead for all of them. Of course, they tried to throw him in jail, ruin his life, kill him. And now he's the president. I love that line during the national address. Like, my political opponent tried to throw me in jail. How'd that work out for him?
How'd that work out?
But some things coming up to keep an eye on for MAHA. So he's indicated he's going to be reviewing the childhood vaccine schedule, which I think is fantastic. Pesticides, food additives, microplastics, and antidepressants will be investigated to see if it contributes to the rise of chronic illness. And the other thing, a little bit technically, wants to remove members of the external committee that advises the CDC and FDA on vaccine approvals and other health decisions. This is known as the ACIP. Again, kind of just bringing control back under the federal government where it should be instead of externally influenced by, I don't know, people on the board of Moderna. Sounds smart to me. So I'm excited for those updates. We'll roll those out as they kind of come out. But one thing that we have to hit here, I put in the title, Catholic Church has a problem. Okay, something that the three of us and many of our audience can agree on here. So every time a poll comes out, I think Salmon's in the Crisis article that we were reading said this. It's like Catholics all kind of collectively take a big sigh because it's not going to be good. So Erica, I had you dig into this. There's a poll that came out, I believe it was Pew, and then there's also the PRRI survey of 2016. Not great news for the faithful in the pew. So what did you see there?
Yeah, so we covered the initial results from the Pew polling about how the Christians leaving Christianity has leveled off, right? And this is good news. But when you dig down deeper into that also the same reporting when it comes to Catholics, it's bad. And as Eric Salmon says in his crisis article, it's really bad. So today, as of 2024 polling, 19% of Americans self-identify as Catholic. That's down from 24% in 2007. And then he says, he indicates that the most shocking number is this. For every 100 people who join the Catholic Church, and we have about 90 plus people joining the Catholic Church in New Haven this year. So this hit home for me. 840 leave the Catholic Church. So remember, for every one person coming in, 8 or 9 are leaving the faith. And, these are dark numbers. I think all of us anecdotally feel this personally. We have family members who have left the faith. We see our kids, our friends' children, going off to school and coming back, not practicing the faith. And so it is a very personal poll, and it's shocking to see the numbers. But the point that First, I wanted to dig into, okay, do we have data on why people are leaving the faith? So I went back to this 2016 survey from PRRI, and this was a survey of nones, so people who left the Catholic faith. Most people who leave the church become nothing. There's a good segment become Protestant, but most of them, over 50%, become
Church
nothing.
of the brunch.
Yeah, exactly. So 60% said in 2016, I stopped believing in the religion's teachings. 32%, my family was never that religious growing up. So that's who we always think, well, they didn't go to mass as a kid or something. 29% perceived negative religious teachings about or treatment of gay and lesbian people.
I wonder if that has changed since 2016 now with the rise of trans stuff.
I bet it's actually spiked. I think it's gone up.
You think it's worse?
I think it's gone. I would guess it's gone worse. 19% the clergy sexual abuse scandal, and this was pre-McCarrick, of course, as well.
Oh gosh.
So interesting numbers there. But Eric Salmon's point is, whenever a poll like this comes out, Catholics one-on-one and church leadership should do 2 things. First, they should think about what are the causes of this and have a very public, robust discussion about why is this still happening. And second, they should look at fixing it in terms of radical change. He says, look, if you had a business, if you were like, say the Loop, if for every subscriber to the Loop who joined the list, 8 or 9 dropped out of the list, we would have a big all hands on deck fire drill meeting and say,
I wouldn't have a job.
Radically change what we are doing, right?
Yeah.
But we don't see that at the bureaucratic leadership level of the church. And he's like, why is this?
It's funny you say that. That would be, let's carry that analogy then. What then would be the recommendation? The people that are leaving the church are leaving it because they disagree with the church. And so on church teachings, the people, the scandal is a different.
Think are church teachings.
The scandal thing is a different, it's very important, but it's a different thing. But the people that never really were really raised in it, they only went through the motions. That's because their parents didn't believe in the church's teachings. Okay. So it's just a generation back. So they left it because they disagree with the church teachings, or their parents phoned it in and just went through the motions because they didn't really believe in it. Mm-hmm. And then how they treat gays and lesbians. Again, it's the sexual revolution. That's what this is all about. We're not confronting it. And so the answer that the Catholic lefties would say is, see, all these people that are leaving, you could win them back by basically completely gutting everything you teach about the church's teachings. And then it's like, well, then the people who are actually still going, who believe in those things, are going to leave. So that's not the answer. So what has the Catholic Church done for the last 40 or 50 years? They've split the baby. Mm-hmm. They still have teachings on paper, but they just don't really preach it. So you can go to a Catholic church, a regular parish in most American suburbs, and you'll never hear a bishop or a priest talk about, hey, men, it's time to give up pornography. And women, like, this is what it means to be a woman. Like, the sanctity of life and all this stuff. You don't
or
hear
birth
that.
control,
There's no,
or it's time to give up your birth control, right?
you're not hearing. Yes, exactly. We're not confronting it. So we have this weird scenario where we're trying to split the baby, where on paper we still believe
Literally
in the
in some
church
cases.
teachings so that the people still believe it go, but they never hear anything that nourishes it. And then the people are like, well, this is kind of a joke. And so they leave because they don't believe in it.
Can I qualify all of this real quick? I can't remember if you said this or not, Erica, but this is self-identified Catholics. So there's no marker in there about whether or not they practice. So that wasn't even a requirement, and it wasn't a part of the Pew survey. So I think something to think about, Josh, with all of this is we don't live in a time anymore where there's really cultural positives to being Catholic. If anything, it's just become pretty negative.
I get that.
So to me, this is people falling off that maybe didn't really believe to begin with, and maybe just enjoyed kind of the ancestral, I'm Catholic. So is this really that bad? Is my question.
Well, no, I get that. But that's kind of my point. Like, everyone that was raised Catholic over the last 2 generations, like, a lot of them have left. That's essentially what we're talking about here, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is the $64,000 question that the church has been grappling with continuously over the last 50 years, right? You have lots of people who are leaving the Catholic Church. Why are they leaving? Largely because they themselves don't agree with the church's teachings, and mostly it's on human sexuality. Mm-hmm. Or they weren't really raised and catechized properly, and that's because their parents really didn't believe in practice as well. So it ultimately gets down to that most people that are leaving, they're like, I can't go through the motions, just pray the rosary, get the ashes on the forehead, and not eat fish on Friday, just because they grapple with the biggest problem. They don't believe in the church's teachings on human sexuality. That is the big question of our era. Like that, you can't avoid it. And so there's some people who kind of go, well, my family has believed in it, so I still go through it. But if there's that tension as the culture becomes more and more emphatic about embracing all aspects of the sexual revolution, the church is in this really awkward moment where it's like, are we going to continually just say, hey, how's it going? I mean, the priest I went to at church on Sunday, he was talking about breakfast at Tiffany's. I'm like, what the hell are you getting at? Like, gosh. Wake up. Do you not see what's going on here? I mean, like, we're fundamentally failing to address if St. Paul were alive today in the flesh, do you think he would be talking about like, hey guys, get rid of this Instagram if it's making you feel miserable. Guys, stop looking at this porn. Get out of your basement. Get doing. He would be there and he would be spouting. He'd be spitting truths every day.
That's right.
Erica, did you have something you want to say on that?
I'm trying to think if I have more to say, because I think Josh, like, he put his finger on it. It's the sexual revolution coupled, I think, with the rise of technology, the 2008 marker of the smartphone coming in, and people finding sort of like their spiritual feed in they find their community on the phone. Community. So I think like it was this perfect storm. We're living through the darkest days of that perfect storm, where we had the breakdown of thick local communities and parishes following the 1960s. On the theological arm, we have the breakdown of the watering down of church teaching, what Bishop Robert Barron has called, beige Catholic or Catholic light. Oh yeah. So we've got all of that, and also the sexual revolution, like all of these things sort of coming together. And this is what Benedict was talking about, I think, Pope Benedict, right? When he's talking about it's going to be a smaller church, but the remnant that remains will be strong, because I am looking at 90 converts coming into the church in New Haven, Connecticut, in the belly of the beast. This is Yale University. We have this resurgence. So maybe 9 people left for every one who's coming in. But these are young people for the most part. These are college-age young people who have faced the sexual revolution, who have grappled with church teaching and have chosen it positively for themselves. So I do think there's a lot of hope there that Benedict was pointing us to. We have to hold on to.
Josh, you gotta let the young part of this podcast talk here.
You can say, give me 1 minute, 12 seconds, and you can go
1 minute, 12 seconds.
People aren't leaving. people aren't leaving the Catholic faith because like of donatism, or they disagree with like, oh, is Jesus really divine, or is he human? They're not leaving on those sort of like creedal things. It's all about the theology of the body. And John Paul, that's why he started his pontificate. He laid it out, and the church is like, oh yeah, good that he did that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? He's all these questions that come at the human heart over the last 50 years, divorce, pornography, contraception, all that stuff. He's talked about it. It's right there. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? Like, it's all in that. And we need to keep illuminating what he gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to see polls like this, think about the broader Catholics. I almost feel like in a lot of ways, I'm not really a part of that. My parents were. I'm not. I'm 27, not to out myself. But so, I mean, I went to Ave Maria University. Sure, it's 1,100 kids. It's not a huge school. I know that this general kind of Newman Guide school trend is growing. There's no denying it. It's growing. And then I went off to find a vibrant church with good catechesis, good community. And I look around, and the church is full of people my age with multiple kids at this point, married. If they're not married, they're super serious about their faith, and they're meeting other people who are really serious about their faith. When I talk to them, what's the most important thing you look for in a spouse? It's a shared faith.
No, I know you are in a parish that is the beginning of the tide turning.
Right. So I'm seeing like, I'm almost like 3 knock-on effects before. So you're talking about the 60s. Like right now we're kind of we're reaping the rewards of what happened. We're reaping the problems of what happened then. But I think now we're like, I don't know if I could put a prediction on what year this is going to change, but all of the people in my circles with multiple kids that are very serious about catechizing their kids and very serious about maybe some of the mistakes I think that were done, say not properly catechizing, sending people to really secular, actually, purposely against the things they want to instill in their kids. They're homeschooling. They're sending them to Catholic schools. They're doing co-ops, things like that. They're keeping them really close to these church communities. Those kids are going to grow up.
We're seeing very those seedlings.
Right, knowing their kids.
This
so the seeds are going to start. Though. Exactly. I don't think this is like this is going to be solved overnight.
150 years.
In the same way that in the same way that the deficit we're facing in our country isn't going to be solved. In the same way that restoring trust in health institutions are not going to be solved here. Are you going to push back on the deficit comment?
No, in the same way that it took the Council of Trent like 40, 60 years to implement all their reforms. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you're having to train each generation as they're coming along in the new ways, and those who believed in all the heresies and the wrong things don't want to change. Like your formative years, are like 15 to 25 or whatever. And so like, we're still waiting for Susan from Parish Council to retire so we can move on, but like, it's tough.
I don't think that people can fully, unless you're in it. And I know a lot of people are, unless you're my age and they're in it, whatever. Like I look around at even the priests that are becoming priests right now. I'm 27. This is probably about when people that enter seminary become priests.
Right.
They are savages in the best possible way, right? Like they didn't join to make breakfast at Tiffany's.
They're ninjas. Yet. They're total ninjas.
They did not join the Catholic Church to make breakfast at Tiffany references. Like they joined because they see something really true and meaningful there, and that it absolutely animates their life and what they want to do going forward. It's not cool to be a priest in the year of our Lord 2024. You don't get social benefits. You don't get and the pink palaces hopefully have been ripped out. Hopefully we're getting rid of that in our seminaries. Like these are really serious faithful people that by all polling are much more orthodox, much more conservative, much more serious about their faith than their predecessors. And it's going to take time for that to take root. I think you're going to see the success of those, and you're going to continue to see the dying out of the self-professed Catholics that just don't care anymore. And so maybe my whole thing with this is like, because of my anecdotal experiences, I'm okay with this trend of becoming a smaller, more fervent church. It's like a refocusing. It's a refining. And I think that's a really good thing that might be painful, but necessary for the Catholic Church, at least in America, hopefully around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying we got plenty of, I love the chat is just going off right here. And this is a good reminder.
You guys are awesome.
We need to talk about the Catholic topics. I'm just seeing like so many cool stories. We had someone in the chat said they were an atheist up until 2023, just converted in OCIA right now. So cool. So yeah, check out the chat.
If you guys are RCIA, I don't care.
Yep.
Wait, what is the change?
It is OCIA, the order, not the rite, because it's multiple rites. So it has to be. I'm like, okay, we're fiddling on the deck of the Titanic now. Like, let's just catechize people.
So stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, shout out if you're I saw someone in the chat's having a rough time in RCIA. hang in there. It is worth the sacraments. Read the church fathers to cleanse yourself. Just hang in there till Easter. You're so close.
Yeah, and actually, what a cool time to be going through that. And even if it is a little bit lackluster, because how many online resources are there now, or even like opportunities for community for you to actually get rich, good Catholic teaching? They're
It's
everywhere.
the era of the
I
laity,
love seeing it. Yeah,
right?
it's like, yeah, exactly. Just
Educated
as
laity.
Vatican II told us to do. So
check out Augustine Institute. Check out, these are all great. Christendom College, they have a series now, right? You have so many options. Hang
in there. All right. So, Josh, this is a great one. I'm seeing them.
I feel like I always go first anyway, but feminists really are the baddies. So this,
can you use another way to put that?
President Trump had emphasized that wonderful volleyball athlete Peyton McNabb during the State of the Union address, but the address to the nation. And so the White House sent out a tweet with the video of the big dude spiking the football and hitting her in the head. And this left-wing podcaster shared that on Twitter with just a big string of ha, like laughing at it. Like, what? How have we come as a culture that feminists are laughing at a dude spiking the ball and harming a woman? Like, So it's like you're so ideological feminist that you don't even realize a woman is literally being harmed and you can't come to her defense by a dude.
Yeah.
Like any other circumstance of a dude hurting a woman, you'd be screaming in horror, but now you're laughing at her? So, get this. The sorority Delta Zeta kicked her out. Kicked the woman that got hit in the head. Why did they kick her out of the sorority? Because she objected to dudes trying to come into bathrooms. So, you know what? Delta Zeta can go pound sand. What a bunch of losers. Absolute.
Oh my gosh.
I would never.
The girl's name is Peyton McNabb, just for people. She was actually a guest at the address to Congress with Trump. And funny too, Josh, another notable feminist, maybe, I don't know. Do you know Andy Cohen? I think he's the gay guy that does the ball drop stuff.
Yeah.
He picked a fight with her on Twitter and was like, Peyton McNabb was basically like, yeah, I have irreversible brain damage from getting spiked on by a man. He's like, stop demonizing these people. I'm just like, how do we take a step back here and be like, can we all just acknowledge like this is bad? We shouldn't have our girls get brain damage. And he was trying to pick a fight there, and then
it's like, why not have them go up against like the men's Olympic volleyball team? Then
yeah,
like, it's just fair, right? I mean, that's like the point that the other Riley Gaines made. Like, should we have the Olympians go against the paraplegics?
Paralympics,
oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really dumb.
We should just combine the Olympics with the Paralympics.
Thank you, Josh. I have so Riley Gaines, another tack onto this. So this trans influencer made this comment on a picture of Riley at the address. Said she looks more trans than any trans woman I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh,
now
she has a little makeup on. Is that what that is? Like,
now, Riley, objectively beautiful.
She's wearing a lot, but she's
objectively a beautiful woman.
Yes, definitely.
But can we take a step back here? So read the sentence again. She looks more trans than any trans woman I've ever met in my entire life. She's using it as a slur. Does she not know that this is an insult? She's using it as an insult.
The left does that all the time, though. Yeah. They're the ones that'll say, like when conservatives are being tough, like, you're not tough, you're just a girl. It's like, wait, what? Like, why are you? This is so crazy. Like,
you throw like a girl. I'm like, wait, isn't that? Yeah. It's because feminists think that the sexual revolution has told us that women have to, in order to get ahead in life, have to be men, right? Like we have to have the same fertility patterns as men, which means that we don't get pregnant. We pursue careers at the same points in our lives that men do right out of college. And we give up our best years of our fertility. Basically, like, in order to be a successful woman, you have to act like a man. And now we have the erasure of women from the opposite, right? It's the opposite of authentic female dignity, but this is just what they do. This is the full flowering of Betty Friedan and all of those.
And after 50, 60 years of women trying to become men, it's not too shocking, I guess, for some men to say, "Oh, let me try to be a woman." So,
Yeah.
Josh, who's the chick that Bill Clinton had to be like, "No, we're distancing"?
Sister Soldier.
Sister Soldier.
They need to Sister Soldier all of this energy if they ever want to become a serious.
Don't count on it anytime soon, buddy.
All right, Erica, what you got?
We're going to go with Elon Musk. So we could play this clip. He gave this talk about why and how we need to have more babies.
Oh boy.
But I still run into a lot of people who think Earth is overpopulated. So I'm like kind of hammering this point. We're not overpopulated. We're underpopulated. We need babies by whatever means, whether it's IVF, surrogacy, whatever the case may be. You know, that can certainly help. But we just can't go extinct. Like, you know, I think humanity is great, and we should get bigger. I think
Okay. All right.
I could barely hear it, but yeah.
All right. So yeah, that was a little quiet. So what Elon has said is, I run into a lot of people who think Earth is overpopulated. No, we're underpopulated. And then he goes into, we need to have babies. So far, so good. But then he adds, by any means, whether it's IVF or surrogacy or whatever the case may be, we just can't go extinct. All right. So many issues here. Humanity is great. And one of the great things about us is that if you allow nature to take its course, we do populate. We do reproduce. You can see this in third world countries or developing countries who are still reproducing, although not as quickly as they need to, but they are reproducing and replacing. We don't need technology to do this. It's called just get together, guys and girls. And stop
Erica,
using the pill.
Erica,
cut it out. What?
You got to be careful saying that to Elon Musk because he just had another kid with a different woman.
I mean, here's the
man
thing.
has the most bizarre mating patterns I've ever seen.
Yes, he's bizarre. He's strange. And it is equally bizarre and strange as having as many children as you can by as many women as you can to say we're going to solve this problem by surrogacy and IVF. This is such a tech bro solution to a very natural problem.
Okay. So
I'm into it now.
Mansplain it to me, Josh.
No, I'm just saying I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I'm just saying that like the fertility rate we need is something like, I don't know, the LOOPcast, where we have a total of 15 children between the three of us. But we all maintain, monogamy. We all are married to our spouses. So our fertility rate is a nice 5.0, but we're not stopping by every floozy in town like Elon Musk seems to be doing.
What we need is not just more babies, period, but we need human children who are given the gift of a mother and a father who love them, who know them, and who raise them to adulthood. Like, we make mistakes. We're not perfect, but we give them the basics. So this whole, we just need to exist. We can't go extinct. Oh, and there's your sweet little, is that Annie?
It is.
Oh, it's cute.
Oh.
It's very cute.
Now in college. I mean, wasn't that quick?
This could be a whole podcast episode, but
how to make babies?
I think there's people keep talking. Well, yeah, sure.
All right.
We need to bring on
Erica.
I'm really into it. Wait, one more thing, Pogo, before I say. So,
yes, we know.
The reason I bring this up is because this is my real Twilight Zone. Tomorrow is the 1-year birthday of my little 7th baby, and I cannot believe it has been a whole year. And he's so cute and so wonderful. We did not expect to have a baby this late into our 40s. I will not out my exact age, but such a grace and such a blessing. So go have babies, ditch the pill, get married first, have the babies, and just do it the right way. I love it. Thank you, Jesus, for all
the audience remembers that. The audience remembers that very well because you went on maternity leave and the show.
It was the great maternity tour.
Yeah, it was the great maternity tour that we barely survived. So glad to have you back. But yeah, I feel like
we easily survived your paternity leave.
Yeah, we really didn't notice. We were like, "Oh, Jack, hey, thanks for rejoining us."
The Elon stuff. What I meant.
In fact, could you leave again? No, I'm kidding.
All right, can I talk now, or are we just gonna keep?
I love you, brother.
I love you too. So what I'm gonna say about Elon though is the longer his kind of antics and the IVF surrogacy, new kids, paternity drama goes on, I think there's a way in which we kind of work together with that. I think it's much better than just murder your children in the womb, right? And be miserable and childless, and that we head towards population collapse.
It's a step toward normalcy, but it's not.
Because, you know, there's places like Korea, I think they're at like a 0.7 birth rate. It's insane. I mean, there's just, you cannot sustain your civilization that way. Okay, so we're on the same page, right? We generally agree. And then over time, I keep seeing these splits here of like, you know, so therefore we need to be big on IVF. We need to be big on this. I'm like, all right, pump the brakes. I agree with the first statement. And that's why I think people really like a JD Vance. Like JD Vance hopefully is going to bring some real sanity to this conversation of like, we want to actually, and RFK Jr. to that matter, get into the root causes of infertility, chronic illness, those kind of things. So I think there's a way in which we work together. I think hopefully we can rein in some of this weird transhumanism, chip the people type talk. It kind of has been making me nervous lately. Let's put it that way. So mine, I have two quick ones. One, Hunter Biden, name we haven't heard in a while. Unfortunately, his painting sales have not been doing super well. So this in Politico, Biden detailed his grim financial situation in a court filing yesterday, saying that he has struggled to sell his paintings in recent months, moving only one in the past 14 months, compared with 27 in the prior 2 or 3 years.
What changed?
Let's think. Wait, interesting. 2 or 3 years ago, he reported significant debts and lackluster sales in his memoir, just more than 4,200 copies during a 1-year period that led up to a trial in Delaware last spring where he was found guilty of lying about his drug addiction and federal gun purchase form. Given the positive feedback and reviews on my artwork and memoir, I was expecting to obtain paid speaking engagements and paid appearances, but that has not happened.
Oh my gosh.
Wah, 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 wah.
If he wasn't like 56 years old, I'd feel sad for him. If he's like the 8-year-old kid who was like, but I thought my drawing was good, and he didn't win like the post office competition for the best like picture of the American flag or something. He's like, I thought it was good, Mom. You told me it was good. But he's a freaking adult. Like he's past
or even
middle age at
college.
this
Yeah,
point.
then you enter the real world. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's almost close to retirement. Theoretically, he's like in his 50s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Well, guys, you shouldn't worry too much about it. He's an energy executive. He'll find something.
That's true.
else.
That's right.
That's true. He's kind of a polymath. Okay, so then I'm going to bring us up on it. No, dang it. I think it got deleted. I think it was Reagan Reese. She deleted this. It must have, but she was with JD Vance when he went to speak at the border, and it was on Ash Wednesday. And so she had a picture of the priest that met him on the runway and administered his ashes. And then she bugged the priest and said, hey, can I get ashes too? And so she got ashes as well. So shout out Reagan Reese, Daily Caller. Looks like the picture got deleted. I wonder if I can find it again. But
no, I have it right here, actually.
Oh, yeah. Shoot it over.
Private chat. Everyone needs to see. Great smile.
I wonder if she just changed it or whatever, but.
Or maybe she blocked you.
That's possible. I don't know why, but
can you get in it? There she is.
So, yeah. Prior to departing the southern border, priest greeted Vance at Air Force 2, gave him his ashes.
She's in the Hillsdale grad.
Oh, really?
Hey, Hillsdale. Shout out.
Look at that. Shout out the boy JD. Okay. That'll bring us up on a positive note for Friday. Great week of shows. Thank you guys for joining us. If you want to help out the program, join the Champions Club. CatholicVote.org/champions is the best way to support us. If you want to go check out our sponsor, Hypurofit, shout out to them for sponsoring the episode. Reviews, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For you guys listening there, if you leave us a review, helps out a lot. Appreciate all the feedback we get there. Email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. But of course, hope you guys are having a great Lent. In those Lenten prayers, keep us in mind, if you will. Pray for the Loopcast. Pray for Tom, Josh, and Erica here. We could use all the prayers we can get. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Pray for us. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.